For 3 centuries, the kingdoms of Gotia, Latria, and Alabastria have been ruled over by the 3 great houses. The sovereigns of these nations all trace their lineage back to the first great house of Alabastria, the cradle of humanity in the world of Illyria. In the generations following the mass exodus from their ancestral homelands, 2 of the 3 kingdoms have waged ceaseless wars for supremacy, ravaging the very lands they sought to rule over. The longest period of peace in this unending era of antipathy, some 20-odd years of world-weary respite, is buckling under the weight of the Nemesis King's rival ambitions. The whole of humanity, unified beneath their banner. Northern Gotia and southern Latria have mired their fertile lands in the blood of their people, but western Alabastria has remained isolated unto itself, refusing to partake in the bitter conflict between her sister kingdoms for as long as the 2 have feuded. Nevertheless, avaricious lords and political profiteers alike have worked with cloak and dagger to rekindle the embers centuries of enmity have left smoldering in the dark. With each passing year, the fires have spread, pushing the domain of man that much closer to the brink of annihilation once more. It is in such a time and place that our heroes emerge, clawing out from under the rivers of blood shed on the trails they blazed. Their story is one of battle and massacre, of victory and defeat, of struggle and vindication. Born unto the crucible of conflict and tempered by the flames of war, the men and women of the banner of the White Wolf would come to be known as the finest and most fearsome of all military companies of the 3 kingdoms. This banner's saga is one of meteoric ascent, the path of a king that would rule all 3 kingdoms in a concordance unseen for 300 years. Our tale, however, begins long before the reign of the Wolf King. We open in the borderlands connecting the kingdoms of Gotia and Latria, following the banner's march in the contested forests and fields of a 100-mile moor. The sun rises over a landscape of thick forests and rolling green hills, where we can see a wooden palisade erected in an oblong shape along the face of one such knoll. Surrounded by trees and patrolled by leather-clad sentries, the sheltered camp is teeming with activity in the nascent morning. The smoke of breakfast fires billow out into an open sky above, and men and women sharpen swords, cinch what few armor plates are to be found, and make themselves ready for the day's battle. A lone banner rests on a raised wooden platform in the very center of this encampment. A crude but meticulously fashioned standard of recycled linen, a black field, with a white wolf's head pointed to the rising sun in the east, maw open as if to devour whatever might fit within its jaws. We can see the various mercenaries of this company, both grizzled veterans of campaigns past and fresh-faced greenhorns anxious for their first battle, finalizing their preparations for the coming conflict before slowly trickling in to form a loose circle around the banner in the middle of camp. A lone figure stands in patchwork breastplate armor next to the monochrome standard, the brilliant white hair that falls past his shoulders tussling in the wind. He lays out the strategy he has surmised, making contact with each individual pair of eyes in the 40-man collective before calling out the names of 4 of their number to join him at the makeshift podium. So, who's first in line?
Marec walks outward from the group first. He is tall, he has pale skin, he's got sort of a short, messy block of blonde hair. Marec is from the agrestic tribes of Illyria, and he's spent most of his childhood living apart from society in the wilderness of Latria. He's well-traveled, but he knows very little about the more metropolitan parts of the country. He's lightly armored, and he carries a great sword and other smaller weapons, like a dagger and some javelins. He has a reputation for being rude and blunt among the others of the warbands, but he's not ill-natured. He's just very straightforward in his own peculiar way. Marec is largely indifferent to the coming skirmish. He's been in battles before, larger than this and smaller, and he knows how quickly things can go poorly for one side or the other. That said, he trusts Soren, and he trusts the plan here as well, and he is willing to take charge when needed.
So we see Marec walking up. Who's following?
Jasper would walk up next. Stepping forth from the crowd is a rather straight-backed soldier. His armor, while worn and showing great use, is very immaculately kept. each buckle and each strap, while damaged and dinged, functional to the highest degree. Bearing a pair of swords of Latrian local make, he steps forward onto the podium and turns, revealing a slightly tanned and weathered face of a 25-year-old who's clearly seen many years of hard work, both on the battlefield and likely elsewhere, possibly farms or other difficult tasks. He has a smile on his face that only slightly undermines how tired he clearly looks. His beard, while neatly kept, is really more shorn to a reasonable length than it is immaculately detailed. His hair, while cut down to a reasonable length, is still curly and black and inherently messy. He turns, gives Marec a nod, then faces forward in a relatively casual, at-ease posture.
How does Jasper feel about this coming skirmish that he knows he's going to be engaging in just a little bit?
Jasper is and knows that he is a mercenary at his core. He took this path willingly, and he realizes that it's not something he should celebrate, nor is it anything that he is eager to do. But you need money to survive, and as a pauper, he is very much unlikely to get farther in life unless he takes these chances. So, he is determined in that way that only someone who chose to be on a battlefield can be.
All right, very good. And who's following Jasper up to the podium?
I'll go next. Iara is the second to last person to approach. She's a young female of average build and appearance. Her already naturally tan skin has been further darkened by prolonged exposure to the harsh sun. But despite that, she retains a relatively youthful appearance and displays only a scarce amount of faded scars from her battles. Her long dark hair has been artlessly put up to allow her better access to her weapons, a bow and quiver that have been slung on her back and appear to be of much nicer quality than the second-hand outfit she's currently sporting. Those familiar with the land of Alabastria might recognize the emblems on her bow to be that of the city's guard, which is where she most recently hailed from, but is clearly not her hometown. Her pale hazel eyes appear kind, if not somewhat guarded, as she approaches the stand.
Awesome. And Iara, how do you feel about the battle that you know you're going to be engaging in today?
Yara's pretty torn about the upcoming skirmish. She's more accustomed to fighting mercenaries rather than fighting with them. So she feels a bit as though she's betraying her old ways. However, she also wonders if that's not necessarily such a bad thing, considering she recently learned that she did not know the guard as well as she had thought, and is reconsidering her opinion on them.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Iara. So the third person is making their way up to the podium. Who is the fourth?
From behind the crowd, you'll see Hope trailing the group. His features shadowed by the traveling cloak and mask he's donned for his journey here. He scans the crowd of unfamiliar people still trying to acclimate to the different faces, so different from his home in Alabastria. Hope's search for purpose ever on his mind. Hope is a young man in his 20s. His tan skin is covered by the light blue cloak and mask he's donning. He's fit and has muscles gained from years of training.
Does he carry anything on him?
Just a satchel that contains the scriptures of the monastery he hails from.
And what's his typical demeanor? How does he usually entreat those around him?
Say quiet and curious, usually comes off as menacing instead of inquisitive.
How does Hope feel about the day's events? I mean, there's a battle today. Does he have some inner turmoil about potentially taking someone's life?
He feels hesitant to use his calling for violence and gain, but feels he can do some good and ease the pain of his back.
As soon as the four of you have made your way on top of this wooden platform, Soren, the leader of the Banner of the White Wolf, smiles brilliantly to the four of you in turn before turning his gleaming golden eyes upon the rest of the company. He gestures. These four have set themselves apart as my wolves, and will lead the charge into the village of Urshrit. It is through their efforts that we are able to establish this very staging area where we might surge on this hamlet in strength and wrest it free from the bandits that occupy it in one fell swoop. He pauses to let the idea rest in the minds of his followers, stimulating their thirst for glory in the impending battle. Those of you who have a desire to lead would do well to follow their example, for there will be many a pup that falls to my enemy's blades before the banner can reach its full potential. Once more, Soren pivots to the 4 individuals standing next to him, winking at the quartet before turning to address the crowd again. But if you dedicate yourself wholeheartedly to my cause, swear yourself in service to me and prove that you've the flame of ambition burning hot within your breast, I promise you will not die as you were born. You will rise above the station of your circumstance and cleave from these 3 kingdoms what is yours by right. It is my solemn oath to you on this day that we first shed blood as brothers and sisters in arms. I will achieve my dream, and I will not gamble the lives of those who will fight and kill to get me there. I will not let a single one of you die for my aspirations. There's a tangible silence that falls over the crowd. Not a murmur to be heard over the nascent insects and birds chirping in their boughs. Fasten your hopes to me. Chain your dreams of what this world might bring to the anchor of my banner, and I will give my very life to see each and every one of your desires satisfied. I will never ask for you to do something for me that I myself am not willing to do for you. And so I say to you this: I will die for your dreams. For what will you die? Gold, men or women, a title perhaps, a fiefdom? Hear me well. You will have all of these things and more if you pledge your swords to my service. Of this I promise you, but I cannot give these to you, no. These are things you must take yourself from those who have held fast to them for too long, squandering their wealth and lives on politics, thinking themselves safe in the castles from the wolves of the wood. They have grown opulent off the blood of their subjects, and fat from the fruits of the land they sequester from the very hands that labor to pluck it. They have forgotten that war is the way of the world. They have forgotten to fear the hungry mouths of those that stalk their borders without rest. We will put right the wrongs of this land, and it all begins here today with you. We will pull down the yoke of the old world, cast down the conjectures of the past, and look to the future, to what we will build through blood and blade and brotherhood. In a flash, Soren's sword has been drawn from its scabbard, faster than any eye could track, blade pointed to the sky. The young man wraps his free hand around the gently curved blade just above the hilt and runs it down the length. He holds his bleeding hand aloft, rivulets of red running down his vambrance to stain his white tunic beneath. I swear this to you, upon every breath in my lungs, upon the very blood that runs through my veins. I care not for the circumstances of your birth, nor does it matter to me for what reason you have found yourself counted amongst my ranks. Those who do battle at my side as wolves will die by the sword as my brothers. But they will live in this world and the next as kings. The crowd, hanging on Soren's every word, lets loose an outcry that sees birds scatter from their homes in the nearby trees. The sound of the wind blowing through the boughs is lost in the uproar, as if the very earth itself makes silent for the affirmation pouring from this newborn band. Eyes light like beacons with fire from inside, and chests swell with fervor at the acceptance of such an oath. With Soren's name on their lips, The banner of the White Wolf lets loose their rallying call as they march towards Urshrit, the first steps on the road to their destiny. The banner rallies, marching towards this village, but what do the four of you do? You've got quite a ways to go. It'll be a good 2 hours of walking.
Oh man, 2 hours of hiking. What would we ever do? So, I figure Jasper's probably taking it pretty easy. Like he's sure he's walking at the head of the column with everyone else, but he's not exactly in a rush. He's taking that steady, like almost meandering kind of hiking style. Every once in a while he'll pause and like just look at the scenery, breathe in the air. Honestly, he seems like he'd be out on a normal country stroll, but that he's clad in weaponry and armor. I think he might occasionally like take looks and see what you guys are doing while we're hiking, just to see what the rest of the wolves are up to.
I think Marec is going to fall back to Soren for a minute.
You see him, I would say, like literally, there's the four of you leading the column, and it's not like an organized rank and file column, right? It's a loosely packed band of mercenaries, but it's the four of you, him directly behind you, and then everyone else. So it's not too far of a walk, Marec.
Sure, yeah. I just like idly go over to him and say, since when are we all pups?
Soren looks down at you and smiles. I believe in my words, you are a wolf.
I was talking about all of them, and I gesture behind me.
He tilts his head to kind of gaze on the men walking behind him, all of whom are, sharing in their own conversations, taking in the scenery like Jasper, or, just really focused on the fact that they might die today. Still smiling, he turns back to you and says, I do count some who have seen their share of seasons, but I do see far higher number of those that have yet to see out 20 years. I would call those pups, I think.
Suit yourself, as long as they're getting paid.
Oh, trust me. If this goes well, we're all getting paid. And this is only the first step, Marec. From here, just wait. He turns ahead and his eyes focus on the road once more.
After that, I think that Marec is going to Iara and check in on her, because history. He wants to make sure she's doing okay.
You probably see Iara looking almost paranoid, for lack of a better term. It's kind of on high alert and looks like she's ready to draw her weapon at the drop of a hat. So she's just kind of thinking to herself, why are they all so casual right now? Looking around as if there's no danger up ahead. What if the enemy knows we're coming and tries to ambush us? Just a million scenarios are running through her mind, but she doesn't feel confident enough to bring those concerns to Soren or anyone of importance right now.
Probably interrupting you mid-thought, Marec, just out of the blue, says, when was the last time you shot?
Excuse me?
You look constipated.
I hardly think that's any of your business, nor anyone else's. Not feeling ill, I'm feeling concerned. Tell me, do mercenaries always approach things so casually?
You're likely to be killed in your first battle. If you make it through that, you'll get through the rest, more likely. Just trying to ease the nerves. You'll never survive if you go into it this nervous.
Not so much nervous as concerned. These men don't seem as if they're about to go into battle. They seem as if they're going out for a picnic.
Same shit, different anus. One way or another, we're going to get that bread.
You have quite the interesting speech, my friends. Perhaps it is because of my rural upbringing, but I'm not quite used to people speaking in such blunt terms.
I think it might just be me. I'm not sure about the rest of everyone else here.
I do appreciate your honesty and candor. Certainly keep me entertained.
Either way, it's best to relax now and be prepared later.
I am feeling a bit better, but I don't think I can fully relax until this mission is over.
Suit yourself. And Marec walks on ahead. Not really taking in the scenery at all, just more or less one foot in front of the other until he gets to his destination.
All right, very good. And Hope, you're being kind of quiet over there. What are you doing while everybody's on this march towards Urshrit?
Hope is just taking it in, he's not used to so many trees, such vegetation,
He looks around and looks at Soren with a new light. He enjoyed the speech he gave, but he still wants to beat him up. So it's a mixed, bittersweet feeling that he's feeling. He found a new respect for the man.
Well, guys, I think it's time for the first roll of this campaign. Let's get some perception checks from everyone.
Man, these trees are freaking gorgeous.
I call BS at the person gazing at the trees as if they're going to a picnic. Got a higher perception than the person paranoid watching every movement around them.
We're going to start at the bottom with Marec. You are focused on what's in front of you, Marec. You're no stranger to conflict, and you're no stranger to the way that men wage war with one another. Your eyes are focused on what's in front of you, and your ears are focused on what's around you, looking for anything that might indicate an ambush. And so far, there's nothing. Hope, similarly, you're a stranger in a strange land. You're just really kind of focused on everything that's going on around you, taking in your surroundings. It is strange to you, but it is beautiful. There are birds chirping in the trees. There are creatures running around the forest, squirrels chittering, and all manner of wildlife blossoming out here in the wilds. It's far different from the dunes and cacti, Alabastria. Iara, you spent some time training with the guard. You are pretty keyed in on crowds whenever there's one to be found. And there's currently 38, 36 maybe fighters behind you and a solid dozen auxiliaries attached. So you're having a real hard time not just focusing on all of those people. And what you notice is that some of those people seem to be talking about you four. It's really hard to make out what they're saying, but you do hear them muttering, and you're pretty sure you hear your name and Jasper's name. Speaking of Jasper, you hear almost the entire conversation taking place here. You said you were focusing on nature. It's kind of hard to not hear some of the people talking about dumb luck favoring the four of you, that you were the four who found that abandoned camp some old bandits were gracious enough to leave behind for you to take captive, but mostly they just seem jealous.
I feel like I should preamble this too. Jasper wears the air of someone who's being very casual and just vibing. But for him, he's focused most when he's relaxed. And so while he has been largely meandering and enjoying the environment, he's been letting his senses roam. And yeah, he catches that because he's been kind of focusing on everything. One of those little details, people are like, oh, he's just looking at the trees. No, he's looking for tracks. Oh, he's just listening to the breeze. No, he's trying to see if he can hear the sound of footfalls. And then he hears that. And he just sort of stops, since I figured he's sort of meandered a little further ahead, and he just sort of slows down a little bit for the column to start meeting him. And he turns around and starts walking parallel to it. Is there like one or two particular dudes who are engaging in this latest string of conversation?
It's a group of 6 of them right in the very center of the crowd, and you recognize 3 of those guys as part of the dispatch team that Soren had sent out when you guys were marching out here to find a place for a staging area. That's why they're a little bit upset about luck, is what they're calling it.
Gotcha. So Jasper is he's going to, after he hears this, pointedly slow down and then turn and walk in towards that part of the column and just go, so, what are we talking about? Something clearly very interesting. Certain it has everything to do with the fact that you all might die in a few minutes, right? Come on. It's gotta be important. And he just gently reaches over and just pats one of them on the shoulder with this very yeah, we're buddies, right? We're buddies, right? Kind of energy. While he's still wearing his smile, there's that sort of look in his eye say it again. I want to hear it. Louder for everyone. He's very much that teacher at the front of the class who caught someone passing a note and he's like, no, read it out loud. I'm sure everyone wants to hear.
Okay, give me a diplomacy roll.
All right. Any modifiers on this one?
I'll give you a +1 circumstantial bonus for being able to hear literally everything that he said.
Sick. All right.
I was just saying how he kind of looks as if he might get some support from some of his fellows. It doesn't look like it's coming. Looks like luck favored you guys is all. Could have been us on that podium, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It very well could have been. Or you could have ended up as one of the 13 or so men in the mud that day. face down. You see, when it comes to leadership, my friend, in the ranks, where you and I stand, because believe it or not, I'm still here. I'm not going to be in some tent at the back of this. I get to fight with you. We don't get promotions based on tactical acumen, right? It's not based on that. It's entirely based on luck and your ability to outlast your competitors. So maybe we could focus on living a little longer instead of chasing glory.
He blanches, just straight like. But my dad was a warrior. It's not all luck. Some of us are born for it.
Oh, pedigree. Let me tell you a little thing about pedigree. And again, he's saying this loud enough for everyone to hear. Pedigree means shit when you're stabbed with a spear. Literally nothing, actually. And while you might have some title behind you, or perhaps even skills you've developed, what often kills you in warfare has little to do with your skill with a blade, and merely things you don't see coming. A man charging out from a little blind spot with a dagger, or a arrow sailing in from above, or just a trench you thought was filled. It has very little to do with what you're born for. I'm the son of a farmer. Now, do you think that means I'm less qualified to fight than you? Or do you think that my willingness to not die shouldn't make me qualified enough?
He looks like his mind is racing. He is desperately searching for anything to bounce back with. And after 2 very awkward seconds pass, thoroughly defeated, he falls silent and his head tilts towards the ground. But I'm gonna be a great warrior.
I'm less interested in you being a great warrior than I am in you being a living soldier. Look, we are going to have many battles ahead of us. All of us will. I'm sure of it. This is not the sort of career where we're going to be sitting at some desk writing on parchment with quills given a few weeks. We're going to be out here marching for years. This is an endurance trial, my friend. He's going to gently pat him on the chest, not being rude, but now genuinely trying to lift his spirits a little bit. This is a hike. You will have your time, but it will come when you survive through it. Don't chase it. You'll have your chance. And who knows, maybe you'll be standing up at the front of the column with us soon enough. But focus on getting there, all right? Trust me, the rest is hard enough. Don't add chasing glory onto it. Just get to the end of the day, and you'll be fine.
His face rises when you mention that maybe one day he'll be at the front of the column, and you can see some light return to his eyes and goes, Tommen, Jasper, right?
Hi, Jasper. A pleasure, Tommen.
Maybe I'll see you out there. And he gives you this kind of half-hearted smile.
How about we have a drinking contest after? I'm sure we could all do with some enjoyment after what we're about to deal with, right, gents? And he's gonna pat him on the shoulder and start running to the front of the column again, sort of just not quite doing the MC kind of thing, but sort of the, come on, y'all can fucking laugh, it's all right, teacher's done grilling the students, you can relax.
Speaking of, Jasper, you make note, and you don't really do it until after you've caught up with the other 3 wolves. Tommen doesn't look to be a day over 18 years old.
After he gets to the front of the column and the rest of the soldiers can't see his face, his expression goes from, haha, the slight smile, to just the smile just drops off. And he goes back to this relatively neutral, kind of placid expression that he's been wearing this whole time. It almost looks more tired than it does look excited or happy. It's just kind of, right, back to it, kind of a deal.
Marec will quietly say to you, because you were talking loud enough for everyone to hear. Marec will quietly say to you, so he's dying first, yeah?
Gods, I hope not. But that's how it goes. These kids all come here. They think battle is what happens after, right? The feast, the glory, all that. Not really. They're the ones who pay the price for it. The men who end up in books, women who end up on parchments, they do it by standing on the backs of those people's corpses. I just hope they don't end up dead. If that kid needs to feel better about himself, then we'll do it.
Want me to keep an eye on him?
Best you can. We'll see how it goes, right? Mails from a battle and all that, but I'd appreciate it.
Marec nods.
It is at this point that the 4 of you can hear this very soft, kind of musical sound almost, emanating from the man behind you. And when you turn, you can see Soren struggling to keep his composure, to not give off the fact that he's laughing so hard. And he finally just kind of lets loose, stops mid-stride, puts his hands on his hips, and just almost doubles over laughing before regaining his composure, standing up straight. Pedigree doesn't mean shit when you'll run through with a spear. I want that on my tombstone.
Jasper doesn't really say anything. There's sort of an understanding that he has of Thorin. It's not that he doesn't believe his altruism. In truth, it's that he doesn't believe a damn word that he said, because he's heard plenty of propagandist-style speeches from officers. It's your job. You're asking people to die for you. There's no way you can do that without jazzing them up. And Jasper has been on the receiving end of that. Unfortunately, he's also seen how much it's often worth. But the content of what Soren said, it's enough to at least make Jasper see that Soren at least says what these soldiers need to hear. He's that kind of officer, which is the kind he might be able to fight for. As he's fought for some truly awful officers. Nice to have one that's at least trying to command the respect of their men, instead of just leaning on necessity of them having to serve.
About an hour after your party has begun marching at the head of this mercenary column, can I get nature? This is going to be with a +1 circumstantial bonus to Marec and Jasper, a -1 circumstantial bonus from Hope and Iara. All right, so starting at the bottom again, Marec, you have pretty consolidated effort on getting where you're getting and not getting ambushed on the way. Your eyes are on the prize. You're not really paying attention to the world around you. Iara and Jasper, I'd say it's pretty safe to say you're in the same boat. You do, however, begin to notice that sound around you. I mean, it sounds like just the guys around you are getting louder, but after a moment you recognize, no, it's like the birds aren't really singing as much. And Hope, you are really keyed in on the world around you. One of the things that you were taught in your upbringing is focus on your surroundings. Be at peace with what is around you. And you find peace over the last 5 minutes or so that you've been walking has been very hard to come by. There's this disquiet in the area. There's this kind of silence that seems to be almost as loud as what few birds you can still hear chirping. What was a peaceful and lush forest is turning into a bit deeper and darker wood. This place is different, and the landscape is changing before you even as you're walking. It's getting worse.
So it's like a natural occurring type of thing, or is it unnatural?
It certainly looks natural. You've probably read at some point about forests and stuff, so you probably know what to look for, but there's this unease in the air that seems to permeate your very being. And you even notice that some of the men in the mercenary company, they might not be keyed into what's causing it, but they look a little bit put off as well.
Hope will pull up his hood to show his face and look over at the others and tell them to be ready. There's something amiss in these woods.
Or immediately draws her bow at that. Felt as if something's going to happen the whole day. And this is it.
I figure Jasper would probably do the same. He'd just have his hands, grab his hands behind his back. It looks like he's stretching, but really he's got his hands on the handles of his swords. Just all but drawn, basically. Just keeping an eye out as he's walking.
Continuing along your journey, it's no longer than maybe 30 seconds after you kind of stopped to talk amongst yourselves that Soren speaks up and says, "Now I see why these lands are so rarely fought over. I'm certain you all feel it too."
Yes, something's wrong here. Not sure what it is exactly, but there's something.
I hope nods to that comment.
Nods somewhat absent-mindedly as she's more focused on the rest of the surroundings, trying to figure out exactly what's going on.
Well, we have a mission to do. I'm not going to let some superstitions or legends get in between us and what is ours. Let's be careful. Sound off if you hear anything. Let's go. About another hour of walking, give or take, before finally some of this dark underbrush and dense dark wood begins to give way to more cultivated land. You see a large clearing with some ancient stumps still rotting where they sit. Around this, you can see it diverges off into two directions. One take you to the east, to the Dwarven lands. The other continues northward further on into the moors, but the signs of civilization are around you. Soren very quietly, very quickly tells you, we take the left, and you continue. About 20 minutes of walking through these more placid fields, you begin to see it. The first sign of your quarry, a great mill sitting on top of a hill, utilized by the various villages around here. Can I get perception checks from everyone?
I'm going to re-roll that with one of my hero points, if I may.
All right. You get 1 hero point for showing up, and then in future episodes, you'll be able to do a recap, an extra. Okay. Marching along the road, Hope and Jasper, you can see barely making this out. Off on the left-hand side, there is a barricade that has been erected in the middle of the road. Behind that barricade is a second barricade. To your eyes, there is no one there yet. Soren orders a halt. This is it, men. Are you ready?
As you can be.
Marec just drops into a slightly lower stance, like he's getting ready to pounce on something.
Hope will remove his cloak when he starts running.
Folks, without further ado, let us begin the first of many combats on our path to glory. All right, we are gonna begin right here. I am leaving it up to you, folks, how you would like to handle it. How do you want to roll your initiative? How are you approaching this encounter, this combat?
I would like to use my athletics to roll my initiative score. Grounds that he's just going to pound dirt, get up in the enemy.
That makes sense to me.
I figure probably the same, honestly. Jasper is kind of, at this point, we're going into combat. This isn't really a botting things kind of fight. This is for him a engage first physically, and so I figured he will also use athletics if that's all right.
Am I okay to use stealth for my initiative? Because Iara would probably hang back and try and get a stealthy shot at one of the enemies.
If that is how you're going to approach this encounter, then that makes sense to me.
I also do athletics because he's a killing machine, you know. He's well built.
The four of you spring into action, and as you do, you can see this well-disciplined bandit right in the very center of his compatriots, sticking up from the barricade with a light crossbow in tow, taking aim at Marec and unloading it, but it goes right by your head, falling just short of Soren's foot. You can feel the rush of air and your adrenaline kicks in. You bite down and sprint. Next to him, these three bandits move out one at a time, as fast and as far as they can, and they make themselves ready. One of them sprints, trying to get directly in the grill of Jasper. As he does, the two behind him stop shy and level their crossbows at the two of you. They unleash their quarrels. You brace yourselves for the coming impact, only to realize, just as Marec did, those quarrels weren't aimed for you. They were aimed at the officer, Soren, already trying to take out the leadership. He dodges out of the way, and we turn to the party. Starting off with Iara. Oof, miss by 2. So you draw your first arrow, and as it comes soaring straight at him, it sinks into his shoulder armor. It's caught in there, but it did not seem to wound him in any meaningful way.
If our second attack can't do something. It's a bit nervous in her first fight, but I'm going to continue trying and fire off one last shot.
Oh, unfortunately. So I'll say that the first and the third get stuck in his armor, but the second one, how does it go for us?
Iara's once again a bit nervous. There's hair and sweat and dirt in her eyes from the long travel. She made the mistake of assuming that taking a few weeks off from being in a fight wouldn't affect her, but she's now realizing that she's a bit rusty and isn't as prepared as she thought. Unfortunately, some misfires.
I'm very sorry. That is 3 actions. We are going to go over to Jasper.
Right. As this guy runs up, Jasper sort of just rocks back on his feet and his blades in his hands. He sort of just twirls them forward, brings them into not quite an on guard position. He's not a swashbuckler. He's an efficient soldier. And so, as the guy runs up in front of him, he's going to take those blades and immediately slash at this guy twice. 21, 7 damage. That's good stuff. The other blade, 18. That's also a hit. Nice. And we roll our damage. Another 7. Feels good. Oh, he's dead. Perfect.
How do you kill this guy?
So, as this guy runs in, and I'm sure he's bringing his own blade up to make an attack, he's sort of doing the running like, charge. And Jasper rocks back on his heels, pulls the blades out, and there's a chop as he just sort of cuts in under that lifted blade as he's bringing it down, just steps forward first and strikes into his ribs, and sinks about halfway in before he brings the other blade down and just chops diagonally down through this guy's neck. Pretty much instantly kills him by cutting all the way down to the neck. And then he just sort of pushes him off the swords, and without another word, he steps forward and uses his last action to move in to this guy. As he literally just sort of pushes the guy off the blades. He's not being malicious or anything. He just, man, we're in it. He's earning his paycheck. This is the part that sucks, and he knows it. So he's going to make it as quick and efficient as he possibly can.
Very good. Yeah, so we see a fountain of blood spray across you as you sever this man's arteries from his throat. And as he dies, there is not even a second to register what happens as he falls off of your blades, and you step over him towards his now a little bit nervous friend. Okay, very good. We go to Marec.
Marec has his greatsword ready, and he's able to put together that they're shooting at Soren, and he turns back and shouts, "Back off!" to Soren, and he is going to rage.
Rage time, hell yeah. What does it look like when you rage? I have to know.
For Marec, he kind of just drops into this primal squats, his greatsword, like gripping his greatsword over his shoulder, and he lets out this primal scream that, frankly, I think probably shocks quite a few people here, especially Iara, because Marec's usually a very calm person. He is not calm.
Yeah, we can see some of your own men kind of like, holy shit, like take a step back for a minute.
And with that, he is going to do a sudden charge into this guy here, which allows him to stride up to 2 times. Doesn't matter because he's able to do this, and he's going to make an attack against this bandit. I'm going to spend a hero point to reroll that.
Okay.
1 better. But yeah, that's 2 actions for me to do that. That is my turn.
I am sorry, buddy. Yeah, so as you charge at this guy, I'll say this. Marec, it seems to me, relies a little bit on the shock value of what actions he commits himself to. And in this circumstance, where you would expect just some random bandit to be like kind of freaking out, this man, he looks like he's... Actually, give me a perception check.
Perception.
Mm-hmm. You recognize that this guy has the same ability to stand his ground as some of the hardiest of guardsmen that you've ever had to fight. And when I say guardsmen, I mean like professional arms wielders.
That kind of brings a grin to Marec's face. He's got a real fight.
That is going to take us to our good friend Hope.
Hope will stride into battle, back up Marec, and hit him with a flurry of blows.
So you moved, and then you used flurry of blows. Does that only take 1 action?
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. Monks are neat. 5 damage. Wow.
I see my friend go in and miss his attack, so I go to assist.
So we see a fist come flying in and just punch this guy across the face with bone snapping force. We can hear some of his muscle fibers like cinch, and he just as 2 more, a foot and a elbow, come in for the kill, he bats away one and ducks under the other, barely keeping himself alive. All right, that is 3 actions. We go to the well-disciplined bandits in the back. They begin firing at your compatriots, who are themselves moving in. A good number of them shooting at the core, just trying to get any kind of hit. And we do see a good number of men under the banner of the White Wolf taking corals, some of them falling to their knees, some of them falling to their stomach. That is the point that you can see off on the right-hand side of the road, the brunt of the forces. are beginning to charge into your lines. Your men surge forward, doing their best to meet their opponents on the field of battle, but you have the flank. If you fall, the four of you, it is not going to look very pretty for the other men here. And you are taking on more than your share. So, with that being said, we go back to the top of the turn order with this well-disciplined bandit up at the top, taking aim at Iara, and he is going to try to shoot you with his crossbow. That is one miss. He's going to try to do it again. My lord. He shoots twice. That's it. This bandit that is right here next to Jasper is going to give you the best that he can. Lashes out with his axe. Oh no. That is a critical miss, actually. He swings wildly, already wounded, and you take advantage of an opening and just bap him on the wrist with the flat of your blade, causing him to fling his axe off to the tree next to you, where it sinks into the bark out of his reach. He looks to you, and one action left. He's going to try to give you an unarmed strike.
Oh, this poor fool.
No, and in fact, he makes it even worse for himself. He just wildly swings with all of his body weight, making himself flat-footed until his next turn, which is a -2 to his armor class.
Poor dude. I actually feel bad for him now.
This well-disciplined bandit, who is being flanked by Hope and is currently engaged in mortal combat with Marec, is going to turn and try to swing at both of you. Starting with Marec, he swings his axe. He does not hit. His second attack comes at Hope, which is also a miss. Seeing that that is all he's going to be able to do on this turn, he's going to take one final swing at the monk who just damn near killed him. And he himself is now flat-footed. He also is just hacking wildly with his axe. He's not having a very good time. Iara, it is your turn.
Okay, I believe since my bow has a range of 100 feet that I can target the bandit that is behind the wheelbarrow.
Absolutely. Ooh, that is a miss. Would you like to spend a hero point, or are you going to save it?
I would not.
Dice are being mean today.
Iara maybe doesn't care very much about this fight. She's more focused on staying alive than actually killing these guys.
In true medieval fashion, unlike the way that people are portrayed as shooting arrows now, where you draw one arrow at a time, you draw 3, and you go once, twice, 3 times, keeping the man with the crossbow, his back under cover and his eyes wide. He is suppressed. Jasper, we go over to you.
All right. This poor guy who's disarmed himself. I feel like as he threw that punch, Jasper just sort of used his blades to guide his fist past him, which is why he's flat-footed. And as he sort of adjusts himself to look at him, he's just gonna look at this guy and look at the axe and then look back at him. Looks like you have a choice now, friend. Run or die. What's it gonna be? I'm not particularly attached to either action. He's gonna hold his blades at the ready, and he's going to attempt to convince this guy to just fuck off. Go find somewhere else to be.
Give me an intimidation. Circumstantial bonus of +1. Ooh. He looks for a second, he stares you right in the eyes. You can see his body language kind of shift as he contemplates just running past you. And you think that he's going to do it. And at the last second, he makes a break for that axe.
Yeah, nope. He's gonna catch a double strike for his trouble. Jasper just sighs, and first strike, second strike. As he goes lunging for the axe, he's just going to slash at him. Just, come on, man, just give it up already. What's this plot of dirt worth you? Is it worth your life? And he's just gonna keep slashing at him since, he wants to fight.
With a hearty, fuck you! This man looks a little bit older, lunges for the axe. He will get it on his turn. Marec, it is over to you, buddy.
Cool. I still have this guy targeted, so I'm going to smack him with the greatsword.
That was one shy of a crit. How do you kill this guy?
He just tried to throw a series of attacks into Hope. Marec, seeing the opportunity, takes this wide slash and cuts him clean in half right at the torso.
He falls to the ground, unable to get breath down.
And without even missing a beat, Marec, that's only one action. Marec is going to perform a sudden charge again and come right up to this guy.
Unfortunate.
That will be my turn.
Yeah, so you just completely sever this guy in two. Use that momentum with your sword swinging over to your other shoulder. You charge, and then when you reach out, you go to like just chop this guy in half, just like you did the last, but he folds himself on top of this wheelbarrow to avoid you doing what you did to his buddy. He looks at you, looks quite scared.
Marec was screaming the entire time as well, and there's like a little crater where his greatsword struck the ground when he missed the second guy.
Yeah, we can still see the little plods of dirt like scattering into the wind. Very good. We're gonna go over to Hope.
Hope is going to look back at Iara and Jasper and give a quick nod and run towards Marec is at. He's going to jump over this barricade here.
You're gonna jump over the barricade, absolutely.
How much movement is the jump? Because I have quick jump, but I can just do it in one action.
That is very nice.
I think that also means you only move half as far, too. Yeah.
I'll jump over, and then I'll come down with a flurry of kicks, if you will.
Bicycle kicks.
Full scorpion effect.
Oh no!
Not the nat one. Oh no.
Or I use my hero point,
That's better.
and then I'd give him another one.
The dice are being cruel today. Oh, that second one misses. I'm sorry.
They don't like us very much.
They know it's your first mission as a party, and they're like, you're gonna have to earn it in this campaign. 5 damage. So you come flying. Is it okay if I say that you do that, like, I don't know what it's called, but that thing where you throw yourself like body forward over something and then like do an acrobatic twist with your legs in the air to kick at this guy twice?
Oh yeah.
Beautiful. We see him catch the first one on the flat of his blade, but then the second one hits him in the chest, and his feet literally like skirt in the dirt. We can see the tracks as he gets pushed back a good like 3 feet from the impact of the blow that does land. Then with that, we go to the bandits in the back. They begin scooting out, getting ready for what's coming at them. This guy moves forward, and he is going to try to shoot at our good friend Marec. Oh no, that's a hit, and 5 damage.
That should only be 3 because I had 2 temp HP.
So he runs out from behind his barricade, shoots at you with his crossbow, which does come grazing by and like hits you in between your arm and your torso, drawing a little bit of blood, and then drops his bow and takes out his axe. We're gonna see the same thing happen over here to Hope. In unison, these 2 guys move. And it looks like Hope is getting hit as well. Oh, that is far less damage though. So Hope, you take a single point of damage as he lets loose. You turn and, fuck it, rule of cool, you grab the coral as it's gonna like hit you somewhere important, but you stop the worst of it and drop it to the ground. And then the final bandit, he's got range on Iara. He sees her shooting. He's gonna shoot at her. He shoots, he reloads, and he shoots again. No such luck. And in fact, his shoddily made crossbow seems to snap as he lets loose the second coral, and he looks at it like, oh shit, and just like throws it to the ground as a free action. That's all 3 of his actions. So we are going to go back up to the top of the turn order. One of them facing down Jasper, and one of them facing down 2 people at once. That is really rough. So he moves, he grabs the axe.
Before he does that, I'm going to trigger my attack of opportunity, because if he's using a manipulate action or a move action, then I get to slap at the boy.
Give him the business.
I warned him. I told him, you do dumb things, you play dumb games, you gonna get dumb prizes. Speaking of.
Oh.
Speaking of.
Oh, so that's where all the good dice rolls went.
How do you end him? Roll damage, but how do you end him?
So I feel like as Jasper watches this guy go towards the axe, He just goes, come on, man, was it worth it? And he just goes, fuck you! Jasper says, fine. And he's just going to, not even like stepping out too far from where he is, but just take one step forward, extend his sword, and just under one arm through his ribcage and out the other side, like right through that area, and just neatly sever his aorta. Just pull the blade out and like just let the blood go on the ground with one slice. That was wholly unnecessary.
He is dead. The other remaining bandit is going to try to give both of you the business. He dropped his bow last turn, so he's got 3 actions. He's going to first swing at Hope and then at Marec. He hit Hope. Oh no. He crit on Marec. Oh no. That's very bad.
Oh, so that's where all the good dice rolls went.
To me, I guess. All right, so Hope, you take 3 damage. Oh my goodness. Marec, he deals you 12 damage. In one fell swoop, he swings this axe, clipping you, Hope, who's able to get out of the worst of it. But Marec, you weren't expecting something like this. You were expecting him to just be attacking Hope here. So the follow through catches you on the back foot and sinks straight into your right shoulder where it meets your torso. You can hear your clavicle snap as a fountain of blood erupts. It hurts, and it fuels your rage. Iara, it is your turn.
Iara is over this fight. She didn't want to be here in the first place. This is just an obligation at this point. Would you say that the bandit that is behind Hope is within 100 feet?
Oh, definitely. He's at 75 feet. 70 feet from you.
At this point, Yara's just like, I don't know what's wrong with my fingers today. Just grabs an arrow and lobs it wildly.
That's a hit.
It is meaningless at this point.
Yara, how do you kill this guy?
Being frustrated, she just grabbed 3 arrows. One of these has to hit him if I aim at him, and somehow 2 of them got him, probably 1 in the chest and 1 in the neck.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's really cool. You're like, okay, well, this isn't working. Just 3 of them at once, and then just like, and he is a pin cushion. With the force of the arrows, gets knocked to his back and does not get up again. Jasper, we go over to your turn.
I make that distance. So, as Jasper has dispatched this guy and just watched him fall to the ground, he looks up and before he even really gives himself a chance to process this dude just basically killing himself on Jasper's sword, he sees Marec catch an axe to the chest with a loud thunk. And in response, he just immediately pounds ground towards this guy. And this guy in particular, sudden charge! Let's do it. 30 feet.
Oh, you also have that.
Indeed, sir.
I am going to have to ask you to use an action to jump because it does take an action to get on top of the barricade.
That is perfectly fine. I will take that action to jump. So, as he does so, he's going in for the shankin. Let's go, buddy. I am actually flanking this guy. Yeah, so that's a situational. Add that. And 8 steel, sir.
Exactly what you needed.
Oh, goodness. So, we're going to roll our damage. Oh, and I kill him.
Yes, you do. You save your friend and kill this guy.
So, yeah, I figure as he sees this guy buried his axe and he just starts sprinting, he grabs one of his blades, sort of flips the guard in his hand so it's sort of backwards, laying against the back of his forearm, uses his 3 of his free fingers, sort of vault over the barricade, and he just brings the blade down in a slash as he vaults and just decapitates the guy. It's not clean. It's pretty brutal. His weapons aren't sharpened to functionality, but this isn't like some samurai film where there's no blood or a thin line. And he lands on the other side and just looks over at you, Marec, and gives you that sort of like, are you still alive? Kind of like eye lock before he just nods at you and exhales.
There is not a human response out of Marec. There is a feral beast behind his eyes.
He just lets it leave there. He's like, okay, you're still breathing. That's all that matters.
Hope, how do you feel about being covered in blood?
Hope is, I would say he's processing it.
Because you're definitely covered in blood now. Because that was a decapitation at close range.
He's like, you know, those guys that are like battle shocked after a battle. their body takes them through it.
He's on the body taking him through it right now.
Yeah, he's like, oh crap,
Well, with that, we go to Marec.
I'm going to sudden charge. 2 actions. This guy. I'm gonna make an attack against him. Probably with an axe still in my body.
That is a crit, my dude.
Oh look, you did give me a crit.
Yeah, it's not a nat 20 either. You got there through rolling high and having a good bonus. Oh my god. 28 damage. How do you kill this guy?
I probably, I somewhat lumberingly sprint over to this guy, and I imagine the sight of a guy running towards him covered in his own blood with an axe buried in his chest freaks him out a little bit, and Marec just screams and cuts him lengthwise through the shoulder, just straight down to his groin.
There's a mass amount of blood filling the soil around you. You have 1 action left.
I would like to spend that action to move towards this guy, and if I may, can I make that action an intimidation check?
I'm gonna have him make a will save against that number. He does not feel like dying here today. He is going to drop his weapon, put his hands up like, please, 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 I don't want to die, please. And we go to our good friend, Hope.
I will assist Marec in his endeavors,
Okay. You have a +2 to your attack because you are flanking him.
I will give him a flurry of blows.
He is defending himself as best he can. He has dropped his weapon and he is full on just defense mode.
I give him one more punch.
I'm sorry. Yeah, this guy is turtled up, man. He is in full defense mode. He is doing as best he can to stay alive. Being the last bandit, he is going to he's gonna sprint, man. He is going to sprint as far as he can, which is just shy of getting off of the map. As soon as the stray makes his way off, there's a thunderous sound as the clang and clamor of blows trading between your men and your opponents seem to part like a sea. And out from the middle of it, you can see a contingent of bodyguards around a rather unimpressive but plate mail clad nonetheless individual that you can only assume to be the leader of these. Well, they're not bandits, but the person that's standing in front of this person wearing plate mail, that kind of looks like one. Could I please get society from everybody?
Ooh, society.
Jasper, you get a +1 to this roll. Believe it or not, the only person here who recognizes this very large, very imposing man is Iara. And Iara, you're pretty sure that this is a guy that you've seen a wanted poster for back when you served as a member of the Guard in the capital of Alabastria. You believe that this is Hawk the Slayer. Hawk was, well, at one point, one of the most fearsome highwaymen in all of the 3 kingdoms. And he's been thought dead for, 10 years after he was imprisoned by one of the Goshian houses. You don't remember which one, but you're pretty sure that this guy's serving that house now if he's not dead by their gallows.
I think I'm close enough to anyone to really alert them.
I mean, you can call out as a free action.
And I'm only like 20 feet away from you, 15 feet away from you, so...
We are a brief reprieve before we launch straight back into combat, so you can tell your party whatever you want, Iara.
I probably look to Marec first, as if I'm going to inform him first, and then I see the crazy look upon his face, and turn to Jasper instead. Never mind. I do believe that I've seen this person before. They're wanted back in Alabastria. Quite dangerous.
Gents? And he sort of like, shouts over his shoulder to you two. Make yourself known.
Marec screams.
Hope looks over and scans the area. He sees 2-3 new foes he has to conquer.
There's a very satisfied shit-eating grin that passes over Hawk's face at Marec's bellow. You guys ought to keep him on a leash. Cracking his neck and rolling his shoulders, he takes out what appears to be no more than just a knife in his size, but you take a moment to really take in how big he is. And he is size large as a human. He is a very, very big man, and that knife is about the length of a longsword. Well, gonna earn my pay today. Who's first? The girl? No, I think we'll keep you for later. And we are gonna go into combat.
Well, this guy's got to die just because he's gross and sexist. So, you know.
On principle. Yeah.
This well-trained bandit is going to charge. He's going to charge at Iara. That's the only thing that makes sense. It's a move and an attack. You deflect the first attack, and he's coming in with a second one. A nat 1.
Not today.
Yara, how do you get away from this fucking creep?
I imagine he is quite literally a clumsy oaf, and it actually doesn't require that much finesse. Skillfully sidesteps out of the way and uses one of her legs to trip him up. That way he falls and she can put a little distance between them, hopefully.
I'm going to let you take a step, a 5-foot step, as a response using your reaction because he got a critical miss. So you step towards the tree. You are under its shade fully. Hawk the Slayer, big fella that he is, points his blade at you, Jasper, and he's going to come barreling straight for you, bud.
Jasper grits his teeth and plants his feet. He knows what it's like to take a charge. Ooh, boy.
He uses this sword. That is a hit. That is going to be some damage. So he charges at you, and he is going to use a second action called Single Out. He designates one target that it can see at a time, and that target has his multiple attack penalty become a -3 instead of a -5, or a -2 with an agile weapon. That's 3 actions. Yep, that takes an action. So when he launches, I'll say that him pointing at you with his sword was him singling you out. Okay, and now we are going to move on over to Marec.
Cool. I am going to charge this fellow, because I can do sudden charge. My movement speed is 30. I strike twice, so I am definitely within range. And I will smack him, leaving a gruesome trail of blood behind me. I should have targeted him, but that would have missed. But I will do a second attack into him.
12 damage. He's dead.
Again, this kind of arrow look in Marec's eyes. He's just kind of panting, breathing heavily. The rage he's not even halfway through his rage yet, but he kind of whirls around and he fixes his looks, his eyes frantically bouncing between Hawk and his other bandits, and that'll be my turn.
We're going to go over to Hope.
Hope is entering his dragon stance.
Oh yeah, what does it look like when you enter this dragon stance, Hope?
He changes his stance visibly. It looks like he has more leverage with his kicks. Instead of going back for a punch, he'll lunge for a kick. So he makes his way over, flank this guy, and I will give Jasper some assistance.
Yes, please. Please, he scares me a little bit.
Then with that, we go to Jasper.
Seeing this guy saddle up and take this strike at him. And I feel like Jasper, the reason the first attack didn't do as much damage as it might have been able to, is he just sort of crosses his blades and sort of eats the hit.
Slams you back up against the wheelbarrow, probably.
Yeah, he's gonna be sore, like at very least. He knows fighting isn't pleasant, it's wholly painful, and it's just degrees of pain. So he just sort of grits his teeth against it, pushes off from the wheel. He's going to... You know what? No, we're not gonna move. Fuck this guy. He came to me. We're gonna give him a double slice. He plants his feet, pushes the blade off of him, and 1 strike.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was miserable. Next strike. Same map because of double slice.
Oh.
You're killing me. Fuck it. 1 final strike. So yeah, no, Jasper's just basically at this point flashing his blades back and forth, taking swings. I figure because of how much this guy sort of threw him off his game, hit him into the back of this wheelbarrow. As he pushes off, he really can't manage to land a meaningful strike. This guy's too quick, and the blows he does land are at best superficial. Just like, oh no, a scraped knee, slight scratch, but not enough to like actually get his teeth on his blades to get any real traction. So he's largely just spinning attacks at this guy, trying to hold him off while he gets his footing back to launch actual meaningful strikes. So I'm going to pass turn to the next person.
He's big and meaty, but he is surprisingly quick. So now we go to Iara.
I'm gonna go ahead and focus on taking out the bandit that is in front of me. Is there any penalty for me being so close to him?
Not right now. That is a hit.
This is the fight that she's invested in.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You almost fell him in a single arrow.
Nice.
That's alright, we'll get him next turn.
So you let loose an arrow at almost point blank range, and the first one, he's back onto his feet after lunging at you. He just takes it straight in the gut, and you can hear him cry out as he like slowly sways to his feet. He starts charging at you. You let loose the second and the third at almost the same time, and you just see him like swing the axe and just shatter the arrows out of the air as he's going to be scooting towards you right now on his turn. He's going to try to hit you with his axe, and he does not use the blunt side. Oh no, that's a hit. So he swings wild, and it bites into your bow arm. We can see where it gets you, like just at the wrist, and cold pain shoots through your arm. But he critically misses again, throwing himself off balance again as he like rips the axe out of you and tries to finish you off by swinging it at your head, or at your neck rather. You just dodge out of the way, and he sinks it into the same tree, like literally a foot apart from where the guy that Jasper was fighting threw his axe. You can see the two fresh marks in the tree. That is his turn, and now we go to Hawk.
Oh, God.
Hawk sees the newcomer come charging in, and he laughs as he swings out with his foot, crunching into your chest. You take 5 damage, Hope, and you are almost knocked off your feet as he then swings the short sword over at Jasper. And this one is only going to have a -2. That's a nat 20.
Oh, God damn, Derek.
12 damage to you, Jasper.
I got 4 health left and a prayer, folks.
He thrusts this short sword into your gut, and you can feel it get something important, Jasper. As he picks you up off of your feet by the hilt of his weapon, he brings you right to his face, just laughing with that same stupid fucking grin on his face. He goes, "Watch this one." You see him pluck something that he was holding in his left hand and hurtle it directly at Marec.
Is this a ranged attack?
Mm-hmm.
Guess who's getting reaction?
He doesn't know that.
Yep, he's about to. Gonna strike him.
Oh, by 1.
Fuck, he's AC 20. Fuck this guy. He tries half-heartedly to swipe at this guy, but he's probably honestly just wincing so hard in fucking pain from having to, steal where his organs should be.
So this is how it goes. You pull up your twin swords and you put them on either side of his wrist, and you seize them together like garden shears. Just as he's about to sink a flask of glowing red liquid straight at Marec, and instead it goes flying way past him, hitting the mill, catching fire, and scoring down the edge. He's going to be flat-footed until his next turn for that critical miss. Marec, it is your turn, my friend.
I'm going to spend 2 actions to do a sudden charge. I will swing again. God damn it.
Not a critical miss.
Come on!
So as you wildly strike at him as he's holding this guy who just moments ago saved your life, he lashes out with his other hand, and he's just got reach on you. He just grabs you by the throat. Holding Jasper in one hand, he picks you up by the other, and you're able to prise yourself free at the expense of your awareness, causing you to be flat-footed until your next turn. Hope, what can you offer us in this trying time?
I'm going to start with some flurry of blows. I'll save you guys.
He is flanked right now.
No. I'll do another one. No.
Oh, no.
Motherfucker!
And then I attack him again.
Get him.
Somebody please hit him. I beg of you.
Critical miss too.
Guys, you're killing me, literally.
So you fly in there, flurry of blows with your feet, kicking twice, and you just feel stone hard muscle beneath a insulating protective layer of body fat that just absorbs the blows. You twist and you try to like smack him with your elbow, and when that doesn't work, you take a moment to pivot back, put all of your body weight into it, and punch him as hard as you can, square in the solar plexus. You feel your knuckle shatter under the weight of your own blow, and due to that pain, you are flat-footed until your next turn. Jasper.
Guess I gotta deal with this, huh? Well, good news, he's flat-footed. Also good news, he has my full attention. So we are gonna use a double slice here again, as now that I am like locked onto this guy, literally transfixed by his blade, one strike. Come on, please. You are fucking kidding me. It's unbelievable. Come on, man. Map. We're going to map 4, everybody. We're there. This guy's literally, but it's statistically, someone should roll a 12 in as many rolls.
I'm glad that you guys hate him this much.
I passed turn, as literally, I have 4 inches of steel where my organs should be, so Jasper is reasonably not fighting as well as he probably could.
It's like a foot, to be fair.
That's even worse.
I'm gonna argue that Hawk isn't the thing that kills us, our bad dice roll. We keep critically failing, he keeps doing bad stuff to us.
Iara, over to you.
After the bandit so rudely slashes me with his axe, he sees Iara's eyes flash almost quite literally. Looks as if light's been kind of shown on her eyes and they're brighter and more vivid in color. And from behind him along the road, one of the decent sized rock just hurls itself in his direction.
That is a hit. How does he die?
The last thing he sees is Yara's eyes flashing before his world goes black as a chunk of rock just literally projectiles itself into the back of his head, and you just see blood and bits of rock fly in the air before he crumbles to the ground. Once the guy falls, grab an arrow, notch it, face hawk, and let loose. I'm gonna go ahead and use my hero point.
That is exactly what you needed to hit. Somebody finally gets a hit on this guy.
Yes, max damage.
Beautiful. Yeah, absolutely.
Yell, hey, who's the girl now? No, just kidding.
Yeah, so we see this guy's head explode, and you just shoot an arrow that punctures through his side, and he cries out in anger. He turns around to face who just shot him, and he sees you, Iara.
I just give him a look, like, you shouldn't have underestimated me.
You can tell from the look in his eye that he will never make that mistake again.
Now I'm scared, but that's future Yara's problem.
Hawk the Slayer.
Oh no, that's current Yara's problem. I didn't realize he was next.
He's going to produce another of these files, and he's going to hurl it at you, Iara.
He is going to get reacted. Attack of opportunity, Mr. Hawk. Excuse me, sir. I believe you were trying to have fun while you were within my reach. He is still flat-footed, I believe, correct?
No, it's his turn now, actually, so no.
No, because I'm flanking with,
Oh, then yes.
Yeah! All I need you to do is take more than that damage. As this guy throws it, Jasper just like brings his hand down onto the blade, grabs it, and sort of pushes it a little out so he gets some leverage, and then just whack, slashes him across the arm as he throws the vial.
Brilliant. You save Iara from a miserably gruesome fate as that vial goes flying and hits the tree behind her. Instantly, the whole thing ignites in white-red flames, just burning down behind her. If that had hit her, that could have just straight up killed her. He looks at you now angry, and seeing you holding yourself up with one hand and with your sword in the other, he gets this grim look of determination, and he's going to shove you on his sword with both hands into the wheelbarrow behind him. So this is still only a -2. That is going to hit because of his single out. That's the only reason that it hits, is because he chose you at the start of combat.
Motherfucker. All right, yep, drop me.
Jasper is taking one for the team here as he pins you to this wheelbarrow, breaking it at the same time and just shoving it down. And he turns to see the two that are still facing him. That is his turn. You all see your friend bleeding out, covered in his own blood with his entrails showing, pinned to a piece of wood. Marec, you are first.
If I wasn't raging before, absolutely am now. First attack into him. And do I count as flanking him because I'm there with Hope?
Not in that square. Because he's large, you have to be on the exact opposite, which would be right here.
Yeah, I'm not likely to hit him with my -10 penalty anyways, so I will use one action to step over here, and I will make a attack against him. I'm not striding, I'm stepping, which means I don't provoke opportunity attacks. Fuck off!
Oh, God, I hate this guy.
Bring in again.
Exactly what you needed to hit. Oh, because of flanking. Let's go. Oh! How do you kill him, Marec?
Thank Christ.
I imagine that he's about to turn around, and seeing Jasper dying on the ground triggers something in Marec. He quickly steps to the side, jumps up, because he also has the quick jump feats, and gripping his own greatsword by his hands, drives it down into Hawk's chest. Just keeps slamming the hilt of his greatsword with his bare fist, so deeper and deeper and deeper until it plunges all the way through his body. Hawk just falls lifeless to the floor.
That was something.
Marec looks over Hawk's corpse, his swords pinning him upright, and the rage hasn't fully worn off yet, and wordlessly he rears back and takes a deep breath and lets out a deafening roar upwards beyond the fire of the mill in front of him or the trees around him, and just roars out his victory over this absolute monster of a warrior, completely oblivious to anyone else around him.
There's a pause in the clang and clamor as the banner of the White Wolf and the enemy forces alike stop what they are doing at this roar. They turn to see the origin of it, and they see the mangled body of Hawk. Soren finishes his current opponent off by kicking him off the end of his blade. Turns to you, Marec. His helm has been lost in the scuffle. There's only this tussle of white hair behind him, and you see this sheen of brilliance in his eyes. The rage overwhelming you still. Maybe the pride will come later. But Soren takes this opportunity. The bodyguard of this enemy captain slain, he steps out into the middle of this field. These men, such grace it is to even call them that. They have driven peaceful families who wanted nothing more than a place to call their own from this land. What have you to say for yourself? He levels his sword, still dripping with blood, at the enemy captain. I surrender! I surrender! I'm Captain Sweetie. I am the leader of these men. They are little more than bandits in our retinue, but I am nobility. The laws of our people prevent you from harming me. And he looks really uneasily. He is wearing full plate mail, but by his body language, you can tell that he is really uncomfortable because there's almost all of your numbers still standing and very, very few of his bandits remaining. Soren looks out to the crowd before taking another step forward and letting his arm fall. This man speaks of surrender. Did he allow the villagers of Urshrit to surrender, I wonder? I care little for the laws of which he speaks. This Captain Sweetie is a coward, and there is no room in our world for cowards. He steps forth and raises his blade. Defend yourself, or I will show you no mercy. An incredulous look comes across Captain Sweetie's face, unbelieving even as the young man springs upon him. his sword in hand. What you're certain is a death blow aimed directly at the Goshen captain's throat is deflected at the very last moment by the large man's gauntleted hand. He cries out in surprise and takes a step back from the agile warrior before tumbling backwards in his heavy armor. Soren is on him again in an instant, plunging his ever so slightly curved blade again and again towards the gap between the captain's helm and his chest plate. It takes all of the speed the large Northman can muster, but he ducks, weaves, or blocks again with his gauntlets each attempt on his life, before finally grabbing on his fallen halberd and swinging it wildly at Soren's head. The reach of a halberd is favored in most situations. You all wait for the wet hacking sound that indicates the death of your young leader, but it never comes. For the reach of a halberd is not favored in this situation. Instead, there's a loud clang of metal on metal resounding across the battlefield. For a moment, no one moves, no one breathes until one of your men cries out from behind you. "He's got it!" And you see this to be true. At great risk to himself, Soren baited out the swing of Suide's weapon, waiting until it was at the apex of its swing just before coming down upon him, and positioned his nimble blade just beneath the axe head's crook. There is a second sound of metal grinding against metal, and after a moment, the glint of the sun against steel flares across the eyes of every member of the crowd gathered to watch this duel. A second later, the halberd buries itself in the soft ground 20 feet away from its owner. "I told you," says Soren. "I will offer you no mercy." And the time it takes for Captain Suide to reach for his sword on his hip, the edge of Soren's blade has buried itself in the gap between his helm and his chest plate. Soren takes the palm of his hand and slams it against the edge of his hilt. The gush coats him, his hair, and even his golden eyes, but he does not roar. He does not make any sound. Captain Suide, too, pinned to the ground through his own musculature, only gargles once before falling silent. Not 5 seconds later, the noise of metal resounds again, and with a final ching, the body falls slack. Soren looks to his men around him, takes a deep breath, and exhales, pushing his hair to the side of his face, where it stays clung with blood. "Now," he begins, "let's see if we can find this Maya.